sort of from your perspective, a Feng Shui perspective, what are some of the foundational principles that we should keep in mind when we start spring cleaning our space and our environment?
So I think that's an awesome way to begin. And the most foundational thing that I can think of, and I think it's so pertinent for all of us with thinking about wellness and thriving and being a catalyst and healing, all
Mhm.
of this has to do with in spring, in traditional Chinese medicine, the organ, the liver in your body. And while I'm not a
Mhm.
doctor, I can absolutely respect the
Right.
energy of the liver. So a lot of this is releasing pent up emotions, releasing anger, releasing frustrations, releasing maybe you felt over the winter like things slowed down to a
Mhm.
point where it was unnerving, or you feel stuck, like tense, and you need to get that out of your system. All of that lands in your environment. Our environment
Mhm.
is a mirror of us. And so, as you have that urge to start cleaning, to start clearing things up, essentially it's like doing, and again, I'm not saying on a medical level, but it's like
Right.
doing a liver cleanse where you're saying, I'm going to release all of this energy that
Mhm.
I've been holding on to that's impacting me all day long so that I can thrive, essentially. And
Mhm.
so when you are approaching cleaning and clearing,
Mhm.
rather than being kind of mental about it and being like, gosh, let me check off my checklist, I really like to be very emotional about it and really connect emotionally to what I'm doing. So,
Mhm.
all of those great actions of spring cleaning, scrubbing, vacuuming, all of these things are really cathartic if you put your
Right.
if you add an energy component to it, like, oh, I want this frustration out of my life. Oh, I'm going to dust away all of this
Mhm.
old stuff and I'm going to free myself. And that approaching from that viewpoint, I think, is so incredibly powerful, because
Mhm.
then you start to really feel the power of what you're doing.
That actually then, feeds into the next question I had, which is how does spring cleaning in from a feng shui perspective differ from sort of a Western perspective of spring cleaning that we think about? And I think you're saying it's the emotions, right?
I think so. And also honoring the fact that there's energy involved. I
Mm.
don't know that people, I think everyone listening to this, and I know that your audience is far more attuned to energy and flow and Ayurveda than,
Mhm. Mhm.
the average audience. But for anyone listening to this, you all know that when you are cleaning, you feel better. Like, it's one
Right.
of the things that you do where you're like, if you don't feel well, if you're depressed, if you have an illness and you don't clean for a while, when you clean, it literally feels like you just got a revitalization, like someone
Right.
sprinkled some sort of energy dust on you and you got like a big dose of energy, like a giant vitamin
Right.
infusion.
Yeah.
And that energy is so potent. So I think everyone knows that on some level, but when you're doing spring cleaning and you're really connecting to the process, you're really emotionally involved, but also bringing in a lot of cool things. You can bring in herbs and spices and all sorts of things, which is more unique to the way that I work than maybe traditional feng shui.
Mhm.
I really love bringing in all of these elements of nature to
Mhm.
bring this added, whew, like this
Right.
big burst of freshness. So I think that layer of energetics is really more
Yeah.
unique and much more fun when you're cleaning.
It is. It is. And I think that that's really true. And it really brings things together in a different way from a mind body, spirit perspective. And I think it's very similar to Ayurveda in this idea that, over the winter, if we follow nature, right, everything kind of shrinks and, goes inward and hibernates, stops growing. And you're sort of like in this reflection period. And then as soon as spring comes and, the weather shifts, the earth starts to thaw, you have this burst of energy, right? And it's sort of like, okay, let's get that energy moving through our bodies, through our homes, our spaces, through our minds, through everything that we're doing, whether it's like letting go of projects maybe that we just don't need to do and deleting things that we don't need to do and delegating things, like all of those concepts, I think are sort of wrapped up in what you're talking about.